This is MAN 558 and Organizational Psychology. Today we will talk about teams, groups and teamwork effectiveness. Then let's start with the nature of groups and teams. In general, a group can be defined as an entity composed of two or more persons who come together and communicate or interact with each other on matters of common interest. A team is usually smaller than a group, works on more specific tasks than groups, and works together for a shorter period of time than groups. The critical elements of group are members, purpose and interaction among members related to their purpose. The membership element can be examined in terms of numbers as well as the characteristics of members. A group with too large a membership might prove to be unwieldy, whereas one with a few members may be inadequate to accomplish the group task. Furthermore, the group members should be heterogeneous with regard to the knowledge, expertise and skills so they can complement each other's efforts to complete the task and homogeneous with respect to their commitment to achieve the group's objective. A group without a purpose or an objective would be akin an individual who is going nowhere. Finally, the interaction among members allows the group to work towards its stated task. Work groups can be either formal or informal in terms of additional features such as lifespan, accountability, or degree of autonomy. The compensation section of Human Resources department in an organization is a formal work group. It's part of the company's organization structure with objectives consistent with the organization's goals. And hence, it tends to be more permanent in this sense that its lifespan is not determined by the membership of specific individuals. It is accountable to a specific person as an indicated in organization structure and enjoys a degree of autonomy that is necessary to achieve the established objectives. In high-involvement organizations, formal work groups might constitute self-regulating or autonomous work teams. Their unique characteristic lies in the fact that the members are collectively have the authority to manage their own tasks and interpersonal processes as they carry out their work. Formal groups can also take the form of ad hoc or task force teams that are set up for a specific purpose. The lifespan of these teams is limited to the completion of the specific task for each it was set up, and the membership of such teams can be drawn from the different sections of larger work group. Informal work groups are made up of employees from the different departments who voluntarily come together because they believe that an informal setting might be more conducive to address procedural obstacles or minor problems of coordination that they experience in their work. They do not have an official status, but often such informal groups can become the nucleus for an ad hoc task force when such status becomes necessary in order to obtain the necessary mandate and resources to identify and develop solutions to problems affecting more than one functional area. What's teamwork effectiveness? Heckman and Alton identified three major criteria of group effectiveness which flow from group design. 1. Task-relevant effort by members, and 2. Task-relevant knowledge, expertise and skills of members, and 3. Task-appropriate performance strategies. First, task-relevant effort by members. The group objectives cannot be achieved if members do not put in the required effort to perform the behaviors that will lead to attaining the group's objectives. Although group members may have the necessary knowledge, skills and abilities, their motivation to put into required effort to perform may be adversely affected if their performance to outcomes expectancy is low and if they do not value the outcomes. There are some reasons why the group members' performance to outcomes expectancy and balance of outcomes might be low. First, some group members might perceive that the group task is not considered to be particularly important or significant in relation to the organization's missions and objectives and therefore not experience meaningfulness of their effort and contributions. Such perceptions will lower their probability that performance will lead to the expected outcome of pride in work. And second, some group members may not believe that they will receive the expected rewards. This perception that rewards are not contingent on performance also contributes to a low performance to outcomes expectancy. It may even affect the balance of outcomes should employees interpret the non-contingent reward as being unfairly determined. And third, group members might perceive that their efforts to perform lead to more outcomes with a negative rather than a positive balance. This relates to the group's members' evaluation of the physical and psychological cost of contributing to enhance the group's performance. Furthermore, being in a group or a team may result in the diffusion of responsibility. For some members, being in a group is a way to showcase their talents, while for others it is a way to reduce individual effort compared to working alone. The tendency to put less effort into a group environment than in an environment where they work alone is called the social loafing effect. And task-relevant knowledge, expertise, and skills of group members. The required level of task-relevant effort of group members will enable the group to achieve its objective only to the extent that this effort is accompanied and supported by knowledge, expertise, and skills that are relevant to the task. Related to these conditions are considerations such as the size of the group and the distribution of the knowledge, expertise, and skills among the members. The size of the group should neither be large or small. Too many members make the group unwieldy. Too few members could result in the group not having the required breadth or depth of knowledge and skills. Besides, the small size might be inadequate to perform the numerous activities within the specified time limits. The distribution of knowledge, expertise, and skills among the members should be such that members complement each other and at the same time are able to fill in for another member should that be necessary. Furthermore, members should be perceived by their peers as having the ability to carry a fair share of the group load. When inequality is perceived to exist in this area, these functional effects can follow, leading to the loss in productivity. In addition to the technical skills needed for task accomplishment, it is critical that group members possess interpersonal skills which help build group cohesion or help the group to work together. In other words, the ability of members to perform both the task role and social behaviors will greatly facilitate the effective utilization of their expertise and skills in accomplishing the task. And task-appropriate performance strategies. There are several ways or approaches that group members can adopt in relation to the decisions and activities necessary to accomplish the task. These ways or approaches are referred to as performance strategies. The appropriateness of the strategy that is adopted will be determined by criteria such as how well it contributes to efficient and effective accomplishment for the task, how well it taps the group's knowledge, expertise, and skill, or how well it contributes to building group cohesion or enabling members to work together as a group. The objective of work group is to accomplish a given task with the full utilization of the intellectual, technical, and social skills of its members. This implies that members do not work in isolation, but in close interaction with each other as they contribute to decision-making and other group activities. Interpersonal communication is therefore an extremely important condition for group effectiveness. It basically supports the group effort in two ways. First, it allows for an exchange of ideas, views, proposals, and related information in order that the resulting outcomes fully reflect the synergetic potential and capability of the group. Second, it provides the group with the mechanism of opportunity to develop and improve relationships among members. Improved relationships greatly facilitate the task activities. The 5 basic communication networks are the star or the wheel, the Y, the chain, the circle, and the Comcon. Comcon is the combination of 2 words, completely connected. We can show this network like this. You can see in the slide. There is circle, there is Comcon, wheel, chain, and the Y. Degree of centralization. The most important or central characteristics of networks is the degree of centralization. If we have to categorize the 5 networks in terms of centralization and decentralization, the centralized communication networks are the star, the Y, and the chain, and the decentralized communication networks are the Comcon and the circle. Leader emergence potential. Information is the key to success of the group's effort to achieve its objectives. A group member who has greater access to information and is in position to control its flow in the group will therefore have a great chance of being perceived as the leader of the group. Other things being equal, the person who occupies the hub or the central position in the communication network will have a greater probability of emerging as a leader in the group. Since the centralized communication networks do not, the probability of leader emergence is higher in the centralized than in the decentralized networks. Among the centralized communication networks, the probability of leader emergence is the highest in the star network and relatively high in the Y network. And member satisfaction. In work groups with centralized communication network, members can be viewed in terms of those who occupy the central or focal position and who occupy the peripheral or outlying positions. Because the central or hub positions have greater access to and control of communication channels and therefore greater control of information flow, the satisfaction of the person in the hub position is very high and the satisfaction of the members in the peripheral positions is also low. Furthermore, compared to the decentralized network, there are a smaller number of central positions and a larger number of peripheral positions in the centralized communication networks. Therefore, the total of overall member satisfaction in groups with centralized communication networks will be low when compared with the total of overall member satisfaction in groups with decentralized networks. Problem-solving efficiency. Research studies suggested that when groups work on relatively simple tasks, the centralized communication networks enabled them to be more efficient and effective than the decentralized communication networks. Examples of efficiency measures used were the ability of detected errors and take appropriate actions to correct them and time required to generate and decide on the solution. However, when groups work on relatively complex tasks, the decentralized communication networks proved to be more efficient. The reasons for the difference in network efficiency can be traced to the demands of simple versus complex tasks and the properties of networks to cope with these demands. The problem-solving process of simple tasks does not require the elaborate activities relating to setting objectives and developing appropriate performance strategies, gathering and analyzing information, generating alternative solutions, and deciding on one course of action, developing implementation plans, and determining measures to evaluate the success of these plans. In contrast, the successful accomplishment of a complex task requires the performance of these activities, and in addition, considerable attention must be paid to the interpersonal relations in the group in order that members work effectively as a group. The interpersonal skills of providing feedback and active listening and behaving assertively are critical skills to promote group effectiveness and resolve conflicts. Reduced to its barest essentials, communication is the process in which an individual interacts with one or more other individuals. The interaction is a dynamic process, but it can be described in terms of series of steps. First, the sender decides on the message to be communicated to a target recipient. This can be a piece of information, a set of instructions, an opinion, or a request for these from the recipient. Second, the message is encoded, that is, the message is put into a set of symbols such as pictures, words, diagrams, or mathematical equations. And third, the encoded message is transmitted through the appropriate medium, which might be in writing or orally. The fourth step is the recipient of the message by the intended recipient. This is an obvious step in the process, but it needs to be spelled out because its execution could easily be taken for granted. The last step is decoding by the recipient. Here the recipient makes sense of, interprets the message, which is a critical factor to the recipient's understanding of the message. And so, what is feedback? Kurt Lewin adopted the notion of feedback as a corrective and adjusting mechanism in intragroup relations. Thus, when a group member's behavior is not conducive to the attainment of the group objectives, the group will provide feedback to that member in order to make them aware of dysfunctional behavior and its undesirable effects. Such feedbacks allows the individual to evaluate their behavior in the light of the group's perceptions and then make choices on modifying the behavior as they deem appropriate. The feedback guidelines are based on the assumptions that an open relationship characterized by trust and a clear recognition and acceptance of the objectives of the relationship exists between feedback provider and the feedback recipient. In such relationship, feedback is seen as a means to achieve mutually agreed goals. Therefore, there is a greater acceptance of the feedback. Some of the specific guidelines for feedback are: describe behavior rather than interpreting it and focus on modifiable behavior, express feelings directly rather than indirectly, do not evaluate the person, be specific rather than general, allow the receiver the freedom to modify their behavior, provide timely feedback, and intragroup relations provides group shared feedback. Thank you for listening.